Welcome to the In a Nutshell podcast with myself, Andrew Miles Davis, my co-host Chris Branch. This is the daily 10-minute podcast where we take out all of the techie talk around generative AI and focus on what the everyday person, content creator, and marketer really wants to hear. Now, we've only got 10 minutes, so we can only focus on one subject. And today, we're going to talk about recruitment. But not just recruitment from I am trying to get a job, but also the reverse, and that is recruiters and how they are using AI. And this is not just something that's what can happen in the future. These basically going to be videos of what we've seen, and I've even posted on my LinkedIn on how people are using AI to, shall I say manipulate? I don't know if manipulate is the right word, but actually it is to manipulate job interviews. Now, Chris, before we get into the exact details, what's your thoughts just overall when it comes to AI and recruitment and interviews for jobs?
Not surprising at all, mate. I read a headline the other day that was called "The Secret Cyborgs at Work," and it's about how many people are using ChatGPT without their work's knowledge, and no doubt that's going to be used in the recruitment process on both sides of the coin, from both the candidate and the recruiter's perspective, in order to automate parts of their job, because lots of that process is very process driven, right? Like when you apply, it often has a cover letter, and it often has a CV, and it often has a video interview, and it has this very process driven thing. And that's where AI excels for both people, like a question I thought I'd ask you is, if you owned a business and someone used AI to interview and it went really well, I'd be tempted to hire that person based on those skills alone, I'd be like, can you do that for us, please? Like, that's pretty incredible what you're doing.
That, you know what, I can see that happen. I've not obviously 100%. With AI, I've seen it before where people's got the jobs because of something that they did to, I wouldn't say trick the employee, but they've done something that stood out. And people said, well, can you do that for us? Like, I remember once there was, I can't even remember who it was for, but there was somebody who put together like a website and they made it look like Netflix. And it was like, you at the beginning of Netflix, if you've got it on a multiple account, you've got different faces. Yeah. They've done that. And it was just a really creative idea. And then they've done some other stuff that was programmed. And they got the job, but it was not necessarily on their experience. It was like, how did you do that? Like, I love the way your mind thinks. And this is kind of like what's happening here when it comes to recruitment, is that there's two things. So obviously we can talk about it from 2 points of view, from a recruiter and a potential employee. And so I'll talk about it from the employee's point of view, because I've posted 2 videos on my LinkedIn recently. The first one was a video of a guy who was applying for a job, and he was some form of AI avatar that was him. And the interviewer, obviously, was over Zoom. They were asking him questions, and the avatar was answering the questions, and he was just kind of just there in the background with his camera off, just making sure it was like working. Now, if you ever see the video, again, feel free to just look on my LinkedIn. So it's Andrew M. Davis, LinkedIn. You can see the video, but the quality of the avatar was a bit still you could tell it was fake. I still feel that even now I've seen countless like new avatar platforms that's coming out. You can still tell it's like an AI generated person. But I'm always thinking about a year's time. I'm always thinking about 18 months when it looks exactly like you, or deep faked and looks like you. And I'm just looking at that thinking, wow, the technology is here already. The interviewer will ask questions, and because it's not programmed on just like how it would traditionally be, just if you ask this question, I can answer. But if you ask a question that's not in my jurisdiction, I won't know. Now it's a large language model that's programmed, so you could ask it anything that will give you an answer. So I'm just looking at that thinking, that's dangerous, because
it is dangerous. But like, as you said, the video element's not quite cracked yet, which is important for recruiters, because we both played around with Hume. This thing is instantly answering you, and it's compassionate, and it understands emotion. And that thing was actually quite scary. Like, it was a step above GPT-4, it felt like, in terms of
Yeah.
chatbot, like a literal chatbot, not like a large language
Mm.
model, but an actual
Yeah.
conversation that you can have with something. Now, let's say that the
Yeah.
recruitment interview was just over the phone, and it was a lot easier to make it not sound realistic because the phone crackles a
Mm.
bit, like, and you're not expecting crystal clear audio. Yeah, you're going to be duped a lot. But on the
Yeah.
other side of the coin, these recruiters are going to be using what's called neuromarketing to analyze video and your eyes pulsating and whether or not you're telling the truth. They'll be literally like CIA investigators knowing and giving you truth serum through the interview, because AI can detect all of this stuff, like, it's going to become a wild west out there for what's acceptable and what's not on both
It's going
sides of the
to
coin.
be about the job. It's going to be about who can out out strategize the other.
Yeah,
Forget the
yeah,
job. It's
yeah,
like, can I make sure that my face or get my AI avatar to bypass this
yeah.
person's AI detection, and then they'll try and work out. So it's just going to be like, forget the job. It's like, who can kind of maneuver against the other person. But here's the other thing, because when I saw that, and some of you listening to this might be thinking, okay, so I've got a fake avatar, or I've got my AI avatar who knows everything, and I get the job. But now I have to go and do the job, and
Mhm.
that's kind of like, okay, well, I could pretend I know everything about making hats, but I get the job and then I need to make hats and I wouldn't know how to do it. But that's what the second video showed. And that was once that person got the job. And that person, I don't know whether or not it's true or not, because they said it was working for one of the big four accountancy firms. So professional service networks like KPMG, Ernst or EY, PwC, and Deloitte. One of those four. I won't say which one, but it's one of those four.
Mhm.
And what it was imagine this guy said it was his first day at one of those four, and we're having a conversation. So you're my line manager and you're telling me what we need to do or getting my thoughts on something. This program was taking in your thoughts. So Chris is my line manager, telling me this. It was transcribing all of the words that you were saying on one side of the screen, and at the other side of the screen it was given an answer. So it's writing the
Mhm.
text for an answer. So the person who actually got the job was just waiting for the answer to come up and then just reading the answer. And the person on the other end of the screen, so Chris, would be thinking, wow, this person knows a lot. But this is where it was almost in real time. So really, the person just had to be good at stalling for a second or two. So he kept on saying, someone will ask a question and he'll say, "That's a good question. Let me actually, this is what I would do." And then by then, the words would come out, so then he could read it. And I was like, wow. Obviously, not everyone's job is going to be like that. And working from home, there's going to be a lot more meetings, etc. But I was just thinking, this is now. Going back to what I was saying before, this is now. What about this time next year? What about this time in 2 years' time? It's just going to be a
Can you
mindful.
remember? I said to you about 18 months ago when all of this AI stuff started kicking off, I said to you, the only way we're going to ever know and trust anything ever again is if we
Mm.
freestyle online live, right? Remember I told you
No,
that? And Harry Mack is the ultimate
yeah,
because he's the best at doing that. Now, I genuinely thought, as a former lecturer, the only way you can test university student stuff is oral examinations in person,
yeah,
except you can literally imagine this same technology that you're describing now that people are, screwing around in interviews with, being listening to an exam, a question being asked, then it
mm.
digesting the information, and then using some sort of Morse code to tap the leg of the exam pupil on what to write as
Yeah,
the answer. You could
yeah,
literally think about that, right? Like,
yeah,
that is insane. That means no thing is safe anymore,
yeah.
because
But then,
that's the only way I could see was only, like, freestyling your answer live in the moment is not enough time width to have discussed with a large language model. There's no way you could have got that information that way. But if I respond to your LinkedIn message 5 seconds later than what you wrote it, that could have been ChatGPT.
yeah,
Anything with any times window equals large language model could have been used in that process. But you're
yeah.
describing a zero latency thing.
Yeah.
which is
It's
insane.
literally 1 second, 1 second.
That's
And all you need to do is just being able to do that. And that's not even getting, and this is conspiracy theory time, getting into when all of a sudden someone's got a chip, like one of these,
oh
like
yeah.
chip in their mind. So you don't even need it. It will just tell you the answer right there. And that's where you get around if you're face to face and you need to freestyle it right there and then. But again, that's more conspiracy theory. I say it with quote marks.
I'll
But
say it the
it's good.
nice way because I was listening to the Ricky Gervais podcast, and they actually talked
Mm.
about this 12 years ago. And Carl
Yeah.
Pilkington goes, "If I had Google in my head, no one would ever talk to me because I'd just be talking to Google all the time because Google
Yeah,
knows way
yeah,
more than me." And it's like, yeah, where do you actually fit into that equation? Like, when
yeah.
someone asks you a question, do you think about your own memories or do you just go to Google? You know,
Go to
like,
Google.
and in
You
the
know what?
new
That's
case,
that's
like
a whole nother
large
episode.
language
That's a
models.
whole nother episode that we can really kind of go into. But with this one, in a nutshell, not going to work. It's not going to work for every job. You know what we've just said, the two ways you can do it. But if you're working from home, if you're in a job where people can't see you, if you're in a job where it's even if it's a split second, 1 or 2 seconds for it to come up with an answer, it changes everything. And then you get to the point of do we do we need someone, that person who can do it, or do we need someone might be assisted with that thing, but at least it gets the job done? And there's going to be so many different scenarios, not just in work, so many different scenarios with this technology. And like I said, we just saw it as a bit of fun, but now it's like, well, hold on a minute. This is going to be very, very scary, yet interesting to see what happens.
I agree, and I think it will, just the same as exams, be completely questioned as to whether that should be the way that we approach things. You know,
Yeah.
should recruitment be done that way, and should exams be the way we test in university?